Hello, my name is Justus, and you're watching the first in a long series of GIMP tutorials. Now, the tutorials are going to be very basic at the start. We're going to start with the complete fundamentals, assuming that you have never ever touched an image editing program like GIMP. We're going to be starting with the select tool. Now, these tutorials are going to build on each other throughout the length of the course. So if you're interested in photo editing and these various different programs, I recommend that you subscribe to be notified when these videos come out. These will be listed in a playlist in order of section and sorted by tool and software. The tool that we'll be talking about today is the rectangle select tool. The hotkey for that is R. In order to get started, I recommend just pulling yourself an image into the editor. The easiest way to do that is to file new and just hit OK. Usually it'll just give you some canvas. And then open Google Images, and let me see if I can show you. Okay, you just go to images.google.com. I looked up murder hornets. Oh, murderous hornets. So I looked that up, you just find one. It doesn't really matter, but it was topical, so I just picked one. And you right click, save image as, and then you just save. And then you'll see this, it'll come down here. And then you click, hold, and drag. And then you just drag it over here, and you just drop it on your canvas, and it'll go here. And you can go to image, there we go, invis, and then you go down to crop content, and there it is. And that'll get you what you need. Now, I had grabbed, we'll just discard. I had grabbed this image because I liked the blues and the yellows. Now, when you start out, you'll have a lot of just random stuff on the edges. You'll have this bar up here. For this tutorial, we will be using it with all these menus collapsed. To do that, press Tab on your keyboard, and it'll collapse these menus. Now, you can move up and down by using the scroll wheel, and in order to zoom, you hold down the control key on your keyboard and scroll up, and you can zoom in very fairly zoomed, and then you can do the opposite and zoom out really far. Literally the axes are at 25,000 pixels, so quite the distance. Now, you can move around by zooming in and zooming out, or if you have a mouse that has a middle mouse button, usually the middle mouse button will be the scroll wheel. If you press down on the scroll wheel, you can actually grab the picture and move around that way. So control and scroll to zoom, and then the middle mouse button to grab the canvas and move it around that way. If your computer doesn't have a middle mouse button, what you can do is hold down the space bar, and you can use that to move around. So that is the basics of movement in GIMP. Now, what about the basics of the rectangle select tool? So if you go ahead and press R, you'll notice next to your cursor there will be a little square that'll pop up. That is so you know that you have the rectangle select tool. It'll be a square with dashed lines. Now, you can take that, and if you left click anywhere, you'll see another box, another set of squares will show up. And if you move your mouse in a direction, the box will kind of go in that direction. So if you keep holding and click and drag, you'll make a rectangle. Sometimes it could be a square, but it is always a rectangle. You can make a narrow rectangle, and you can make closer to a square, you can make a tall rectangle, really small, really large. You can make any shape rectangle that you'd like here. We'll make one that kind of just covers this side. There we go. When you let go of left click of the left mouse button, you will get a box. Now, without clicking again, you'll notice that the corners will always be present. But if you mouse over a corner, just that corner will be selected. If you left click on that corner, you're able to drag that corner around. You'll notice also that corner will be a similar shape as the rest of the rectangle. Not really useful, but it is nice to see. There is, of course, one exception, and that's if it gets too small, it'll pop out. So you can still see which corner that you're grabbing, but it'll just be there. And you can let go at any time and it'll resume just being a regular rectangle. Now, another thing when you're grabbing the corners is if you click and hold the corner and you drag all the way down to where the rectangle would be at the smallest possible point, you can actually drag to the other side of the rectangle. So without picking up your mouse, without left clicking again, now you have inverted this rectangle. You can make the rectangle a huge rectangle, or you can move it over here. You're basically completely redrawing the rectangle just as if you started from the opposite corner. It gets to be kind of fun to play with sometimes. Now, what about these edges? So these edges, they only adjust one side. So let's say we've got this hornet exactly inside the box, but we don't want that much of the tail. You kind of just swoosh that way, and now you have a smaller box, a smaller rectangle for your selection. Now what if you click in the middle of the box? So we will make a rectangle again. Let's do something like this. And we just want to move the rectangle down a little bit, and also we want to move this down a little bit. We can do that we could do that by dragging, or the easier way to do it would be to click in the middle of the box, and you'll see all the corners, the squares or the rectangles in the corners disappear, and then you can just drag it to wherever you need. So you want it over here, you can do that over here. Anywhere that you need to select, you can. Now, that is all of the basic commands that you can do with the rectangle selector. Now, there are a few more interesting commands that you can do. So we'll start by left clicking off of this box. While you have something selected, if you left click anywhere, it just deselects it. You could also do Control Shift D. Maybe you can't. I can't remember anymore. Oh well. We'll get there when we get there. So now that you have your box selected, let's just zoom in a little bit and we'll select the face. So now if you on your keyboard press the delete key, it goes away and it is replaced by whatever mask you're using. So if you're using transparent background, it'll be transparent. In this case, I'm using a white background, so that's what I have here. To put it back, you can hit Control Z, and that is undo. Now, if you hit Control C for copy, you can draw another rectangle somewhere else and hit Control V to paste it in. So now you have a copy of what we copied up, and you can move that around as you. Okay, and if you click off, it'll deselect it, and now that is part of that picture. Now, of course, I don't really like how that looks right there, so we'll just Control Z it a couple more times and get rid of it. Now, if we select the face again and then hit Control X, it deletes it. But if we draw another rectangle somewhere else, we can hit Control V to paste, and it's there. Or you can actually put it back. Well, not quite. Well, we'll still just Control Z a few times and put it back. Now, when we select something, we have this here selected. What's interesting about GIMP versus a lot of other image editing software is that GIMP is the selection tool actually counts as a step. So if you click off, you can still hit Control Z to reselect something. So if we select here, I want to go back. I can hit Control Z and I'll go back to my previous selection. So that can be useful if ever you make a mistake. Even on the selection, you can hit Control Z. Now, let's say we want to make a copy of these wings. We can do that, Control C, and then Control V. Now you have another copy of the wing. So this one has 4 wings, or 6 wings. Okay, so another thing that you can do is when you select here, if you hold down Alt and Shift, that's Alt and Shift, you can just click and drag it to where you want. You see that again? I'll show it again. So if you left click and select, so you grab a little rectangle and then you hit Alt and Shift, you can click and drag it to where you want. So we'll do something like that. And we'll do the same for this bottom set of wings. We'll do Alt and Shift, and you can drag a second set down there. Ooh, this thing is starting to look really freaky. Okay, we'll put these back. Now, the Shift key lets you do a few other things. If you do, so we'll select this here, and then if you hold down the Shift key, you can add another box to your selection. So both of these at the same time can be moved together. So if you hold down the Alt key, you can move your entire selection. Because all of this is one selected, it is one selection. So if you hold down Alt, you can move your selection. Let's say we want both wings and we want the stinger. You hold down Shift, and then you select the stinger also. And then if you hold down Alt, you can move all 3. Now this is useful because if you hit Alt and Shift, you can move the selection and copy. So now we have 2 copies of wings and 2 copies of the stinger. Now let's say we don't like this stinger here, we can select it and then Alt Shift, I don't know, a 3rd copy. So we have all of these things here. Crazy, right? Okay. Now, we're going to select this, and then if we do Control and Alt, or just Control first, you can actually remove sections of the selection. So I'm just holding down Control, and then I'm cutting squares in this selection. So if I press Alt, you can see this is the shape that I'm actually selecting. So if we do our good old Alt and Shift, this is what we move. We move the box without those holes, which is super duper crazy looking. Or we could, instead of moving it, hit delete and remove everything that we've selected. Or we can hit Control X and paste it over here with Control V. So it's been removed from here and pasted over here. Or we could do Control plus Alt and then move it that way. Control plus Alt moves things similar to Control X, which will let you put it where but also deletes it from where it came from. Crazy, right? Now, with these tools, we can actually remove some things. So, let's say we don't really like this here. We would prefer our murder hornet to look alive and murderous. So, what we can do is, while we've selected it here, we're going to hit the delete key. And now we have an empty rectangle where that pin used to be. Now, how do we fill this in? So we're going to have to kind of use our imagination a little bit. Likely the wing probably would have come down this way a little bit more. The body would round over this way some. So let's see if we can emulate that a bit. Now the wing probably would go down this way some more, so let's grab this segment. And then we're going to use our Alt-Shift, and we're going to copy it down, probably something like that. And maybe a little bit more. We could grab another piece of it. Let's grab this piece. I think that'll probably be enough to get us down there. Okay. Let's grab this rectangle piece. Put that in the middle. It looks almost smooth. Maybe we need to drag this up a bit. Something like that. And I don't like this because that doesn't really match. We'll take this and I'll shift it up a bit. There we go, that'll be good enough. Now, what's going on in this space here? We're probably going to have this segment come up this way some more. So let's select this. I don't want to get that white. Select this then. Put that like that. So a little bit of that. We're going to bring some of this down. So like that. There. Bring it down. These don't really line up well, so let's find a spot where something like that kind of goes together. I'm thinking we could grab this. No, that. I think it's that this is just slightly too dark. So let's get rid of that. And we'll put this thing. Yeah. Okay. And then let's move some of this in there. This in that spot. For this long piece, I'll just grab this here and move it over one. Boop. Now, for this here, we could probably just use that to fill that in. We'll raise this up a little bit. We'll lower this down a little bit. Now, of course, there are easier ways to do this, and there are arguably better ways to do this. But this way, we do it this way, and this is only using the rectangle select tool, which is the point of our lesson. So we're just gonna drag this up a little bit. I'm gonna drag this here. Nobody will be any the wiser. Okay, and we'll take this chunk here. Move that up a bit. Put that there. Move a little bit more. Oops. Let's move this up. Okay, and probably some of this part. Okay. So now we get a basic filling. And of course, there are ways that we can smooth this out and things like that afterwards. But that would require a little bit more than the rectangle select tool. And that's what our, the rectangle select tool is what our class is on today. Let's say like things like this. Here's an obvious shade difference in here. We can, oops, move that down, and you can work on this just however much time you have. You can go through and clean this up a bit, yada yada yada. And with just drawing rectangles, you know, that's pretty decent. We can go from very much skewered ornate to very much alive. Well, not very much alive, but substantially less skewered ornate. And actually, what we could do is we could take something like this. This is to fill it. Instead of the dark. Because the dark does kind of fish. Yep. So, that is the end of this lesson. Now we went over various different things, and this is our finished product of just using the rectangle select tool.